Welcome back, everybody, to another fun meeting with Kirk and I to talk about all aspects of dental offices. Welcome back.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I actually am bumming out. Like, I got this background. You got cool guitars and stuff. I always
Yeah,
feel like I need to step it up when I'm meeting with you.
you should.
Yes, I should. So we decided what we're going to talk about today, which is insurance verification in the dental office. And I want to start with a story that I was at Mango last week at the corporate office, and Mango downstairs has a dental office below them. And so went down there and I met the office managers and we started talking about insurance verification. Now, here I do these videos with you and we're talking about high level stuff, but then there's the reality of the real dental office right now. And these two co-managers have an office full of sticky notes and they're working on calling insurances and they got a team calling insurances. And I talked to them about AI and they were like eyes wide open, like AI can help. And I'm like, it can, it's not going to solve your problem. But so I thought it would be a fun topic for Kirk and I to talk about, because we're both techie people. We also are realists of what happens in a dental office. And then you're in the practice right now. So I thought we would kind of talk about insurance as it stands right now and the ways I see that it's growing. So I'm going to hand it over to you first to kind of set the stage for us.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You do what Zach does to me on the podcast. Okay, so
Exactly. Well, do the plug for the podcast since you said that.
on Management Unfiltered, me and Zach Shelley go back and forth and we do the exact same thing. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But so what I see with insurance verification in general, and really, I kind of look at insurance as a department, right? So it's just like revenue cycle management, RCM, the ability to be able to get your claims paid via insurance and or be able to get money from the patients after insurance is paid. So I look at RCM as something that needs to be outsourced as much as possible with some exceptions.
I'm gonna jump in real quick here.
Yeah.
Just for people listening to this. And about 2 years ago, I was at an event and somebody said to me, "Do you teach RCM?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, I teach RCM. Sure, I do." I didn't know what RCM was. I went back to the internet. I was like, "What is RCM?" So when I speak to dental people, the teams, a lot of times I'll say, "Do you guys know what RCM is?" They don't
No
know.
idea.
So anybody
Yeah.
listening to this, it's a medical term that
Yep.
got brought into dental. So if you don't know what he's talking about with RCM, I just want to make this real simple. Like, it's just getting your patients to show up, get the bills paid, get the insurance bill, like all the things we already do, they just put a name to it. So
Yep.
just
Yep.
want to kind of set the stage for someone who's like,
For sure.
what's RCM?
Revenue cycle management. So it's this cycle of getting paid and or getting the patients to pay for their bill.
Right.
That's it. And so now, and we have which I have completely changed my vernacular. Front desk is not in my vocabulary. Even on
Love
the
it.
podcast, it is front office admin. So, but what I'll say is that now we have some of the lowest paid people that have zero experience trying to handle your money and insurance claims. It shouldn't be that way, but still, that's what happens, right? To me, there are different stages of this. DSOs and groups, like they can have a departmental, like, okay, cool, we have somebody handling this. I have a practice that is, I don't know, about 7 million a year that has a great like 3-person team internal that can do that. And I think that's a perfect time to do it when you have the ability to and the revenue to do it. However, in those, $1 million to $2 million practices, to me, it's like, okay, you need to get this out because you need a team of experts to actually keep up with it and allow your team to solely focus on the patient experience and their role, right? So I know there's different stages here, and I know we're going to talk about that. But to me, with the verification piece, AI hasn't caught up totally. Like it's not there, and no matter what company says, "Oh yeah, we have this great AI ability to do verification." Yes, there is some, but then there is some that you still have to do.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Go
So
ahead.
what we think and what we were talking about is there's your team, there's pros and cons of your team doing it or building a department. There's outsourcing, which we're both fans of both. There's outsourcing, and then there's AI, which can help but isn't there. So you currently have an internal team do it. No, you're
No.
outsourcing it.
I am outsourcing it. Yeah. So we have an external team, but they have direct contact with our team to that. So they have a team. So, and that's kind of what I pitch to outsourcing, whether it's a VA or a company, is having a team of experts that are nerds about insurance, that's what you want, right? Not somebody who's trying to learn on the fly to try to keep up with your AR and all these things. It's like, okay, cool. So that way the people in the front can now focus on the patients that are there.
And I'm gonna put a plug for that because we ended up outsourcing after a while because I had an issue where, we had turnover in the insurance position. We had someone who was a single mom, and she was having to be out of work, and she gets paid regardless. We'd have turnover, I'd have to retrain somebody, and that's such a vital part of the practice. I mean, you're talking about the money. The second thing is it is like, I like insurance myself personally to do it when I'm not interrupted, but it's hard to do when you get interrupted 20 times a day, and mistakes happen because of that. So even though you might have somebody on your team that is really detailed and whatever, you've got to give them a place or a time, or give it to somebody who geeks out on it and can focus on it. It's such a vital part of the practice.
It is, and I think that's a very important point that you made, right? Is that the front office has 5 or 6 different roles that they're doing at the same time. Kinda like a Waffle House cook. It's like, if you ever watched them coo I love watching, like, at the bar, them just, like, get an order and then just start going at it, and most of the time what happens if with following through this analogy, is that your eggs are overdone, your hash browns are burned, like, all things have to come out at different times, but you have to simultaneously think about them and get them still done on time and correctly, which is very difficult for most people to do. So now we're asking inexperienced people to do that in something that I would argue is the hardest position to find in the practice, which is dealing with insurance. Like, truly somebody who understands insurance, not just like they understand how to put data in. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. Somebody who actually knows how to follow up, to do narratives, to actually appeal things and get things paid.
I would add to that too. I've always said that I'm not the insurance guru person in our industry, but I partner with a lot of insurance people, and the regulations and the amount of changes, it's kind of like we like AI and technology. Insurance changes so regularly, and you're on the hook if you're the dentist and you're billing incorrectly or we're not doing the latest. And so you got to have somebody who likes this job and is keeping up with all of the insurance changes and things. And then with in the future with medical billing and how we write our notes and all of it, it's just such an important part that you can't just give to one of the team in the front desk and kind of
Yeah.
do it on the side job, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we outsource it, but I have a client that does keep it internal
Okay.
and does very well. But again, he has the revenue to be able to do it where they are in their own office, essentially inside the office, and are not interrupted.
Now I'm going to add to that story I had when I went into the office last week and I talked about outsourcing insurance, which they were kind of like, huh, I don't, what? And the one girl said to me, but I like this part of the job. And what would I do if I wasn't doing it? So I think that that's a pushback because if you're good at insurance and you take that away from me, what am I supposed to do? And maybe I'm a little better on the detail stuff than I am the human soft skill side of things. So if there's pushback in this area, it could be in that regard of your team members needing training or not comfortable or whatever.
However, if we can, because I know that was the biggest pushback with a client I had of somebody like the front, they were solo in the front and they were like, "Well, what am I gonna do? Like, that's gonna take my job away." Like, no, there's a lot that you're gonna be able to do
Yeah,
now that you should have been doing, but but because you were spending 80% of your time on insurance, you couldn't do it.
exactly.
Right? And so it's kind of having that plan of action. What is it post outsourcing this, and what does that look like? So that way you have the team training to actually do it.
So outsourcing is a challenge.
Yeah.
When you have people who are not in your office that you can lean over and go, what are you working on right now? So do you want to talk about how you make that successful? How do you connect the team? How's your communication? Like, how does that work best
Sure.
for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's different companies out there that use like Slack or something like that will have kind of categories like, hey, the office needs to look at this. Here's where we are. They kind of give you a report after at the end of the day or the end of the week or whatever to kind of balance everything. I think that's a really good way to do it. Ours, they just email us when we need them, or they'll text the office. So, like for the two-factor authentication stuff, like that's the biggest hang up with AI is the two-factor authentication stuff. We'll get down that rabbit hole in a second, but when you're getting to figuring out how to outsource, it is the communication. There's got to be clear communication, and it is something your team needs to stay on, but it doesn't need for them to do the bulk of the work. So now you have this outsourced team that's doing the bulk of the work to verify, to put benefits into your system, to make sure your EOBs are in, your checks are in, all these things. But what you need to do is you need to look at that report, make sure, aging looks decent, right? Having metrics for that and having a standard for the office, making sure your AR is not getting out of hands. So like the amount of time that stuff is outstanding bills for patients that they haven't paid, making sure that texts or statements are going out once or twice a month, depending on what you're wanting to do. So like there are things that you need to audit, is what I say, but do. And then if you see something that's odd, that's when you go down the rabbit hole of, okay, what is going on here? What do we need to address? How can we fix this?
Which leads me to why the third option we've talked about is not, I believe it will get there one day, but AI, there's all these companies promising you'll never call insurance again and we'll handle all of it. And I don't think that, first of all, AI is not there. And second of all, we need dental professional insurance people in the loop on this. What have you seen with regards to AI, and what are your reasons why you think AI is not there? And do you think it's going to get there in insurance or not?
I think it'll get there because so here's the problem I see. Like the two-factor authentication, you're seeing all of these issues with a million different portals. So even like for instance, like I think Delta Dental of Arkansas, they went from the Delta Dental portal to now their own portal. And like it's all these moving parts. Like you said, the industry is changing all the time. So when a software company is building something or an AI, engine is running, it's based off of what it's been told. And yes, it has some ability to learn proactively, but it's kind of like what Apple does, where they put out an update and then nobody does the update because everything will break, right?
Yeah.
Because they'll just put out the update without letting the developers know what the actual update is.
Yeah.
So then you spend 6 to 8 months learning what the actual updates are to be able to change your software to be able to use that update and kind of go from there. And that's kind of where I feel like we are is like insurance is very antiquated in how they do things still somehow. They use AI to deny claims all day, but still like they're very antiquated in how we have to receive the information. And so there's like this technology driven aspect of it, but then it's still way behind in other things. So there's nothing that can really pull all of that together. And since we're state by state by state instead of a unified Delta Dental or Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever, it makes even more variables for AI to have to catch up.
Yeah. And for those, again, I hang around with the insurance people, so don't quote me on everything here. But for those, just to get the concept, like for years, I've beat myself up and so have so many people of like, why can't they come together and make this easier for us? Why can't they have one platform? They're not in business for us. Like insurance companies aren't. Ultimately, it's the patients who are the customers, and they have their own businesses to run, and there's no real benefit to them to have one platform. So as much as it frustrates us, I was at an insurance event and people were mad. They were yelling insurance. I'm like, it's not going to change. So AI can only, like you said, do so much with all the variables that we have. Now, my favorite combination is the combination of insurance billers, people who, like we talked about, who understand insurance, using technology to make their lives easier. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think there's like for instance Vine, like they have a great way to verify the majority of insurance. And again, you still have to audit it though, because like it may not be great. It may be like somewhat there, but that maybe this employer doesn't have the fluoride package or something, and it's in there automatically. So like there's things that you still have to look at and it's good, but I would still say it's 70% accurate. But I mean, from what I see, it's it's there. And sure, does it buy back our time for the most part? But I think that we're becoming too reliant on a system that's not consistent enough.
Right. Right. Which is one of my concerns. And I don't know if we've talked about this on one of these interviews, but I see a lot of companies right now promising we'll answer the phones, we'll schedule your patients, we'll verify your insurance. And I'm worried about that because we can't trust AI across the board. We shouldn't. There should always be somebody, like you said, managing it. And the three most important things we do in the front desk are our phones, the schedule, and the insurance. I would hesitate handing this over to AI. Like, pick one thing if insurance is your thing and work with a company or work with to help offload some of the work. But don't just hand it over and say, "Here, AI, work on insurance," because there's so many idiosyncrasies to it.
Yeah, but that's what practice owners love to do is hand over things and without any oversight.
Yeah. Well, and in a way, I mean, how many times have we heard the horror stories of dentists who handed over something to an employee and then they got burned down the road? It's the same with AI. We've got to manage the technology. Can't just, and it's not an easy solution. We all want a magic pill, but there's not a magic solution to this. There's a combination of all of these, I think.
Yeah, and that's what like everybody's like, "Oh, it's gonna take my job." Like, no, it's gonna enhance your position and it's gonna allow us to have a better margin to be able to invest back into the company.
Right.
Because that's like everybody believes that dentists make so much money, and yes, some do, but for the most part, like it's still pinching pennies because you've got a very small margin because you have so much overhead. And yes, some have figured out how to have a lower overhead, but in general, the majority have not. So now if there are ways to buy back our time to get more efficient, to get a better profit margin, so that way we can do special events for the team or be able to hire another person even, then that's where it really is has an advantage.
So what would you if somebody's looking to change their way they're doing it? Maybe they've always just done it this way. And so they're like, "Okay, Kirk, like I want to maybe outsource. I want to consider using technology. I got a team that they just is the way they've always done it, or someone's leaving and now what? What guidance or help would you suggest for them?"
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is one to reach out because there are plenty of companies out there that I mean, we have both vetted that are great. Some are not so great, but no, it hopefully they've developed enough to get to the where they are great. But we could, without naming names, say there are great companies that can do that. Uh, but then also trying to figure out like you need to talk with somebody who has actually outsourced it because there's a learning curve to that. Because just because you outsource it, you can't set it and forget it like we've talked about. That you have to still manage that relationship just like you would with your phones or with your practice management software. There's some hands-off capabilities of it, but there's still a 10 to 20% like hands-on like auditing type, approach that you have to take. So getting with somebody that really understands it and that has done it successfully, I think is the most important part, whether it's me or somebody else.
I think too is looking at it as a chance for you where it has been hands off, maybe you haven't been involved or paying attention. You put technology to something or you outsource it, all you're going to do is emphasize the problems that you already have in the practice. So it's a great opportunity to look at, well, what are your current systems? Why do we do a lot of times you ask your team, why do we do this? And they're like, I don't know, Susie taught me, right? So it's a good time as an owner, office manager to like kind of get in there and go, well, this doesn't make sense, right? Not that you have to do it forever, but it's a really good time to audit and set a process that you do like that works well and that you have the checks and balances in that you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I hear stories a lot. There's a company or two over the years that people started outsourcing to them and then the dentist complains like 6 months later it's a mess and it's like, well, first of all, how did you onboard with them? And second of all, why did you wait 6 months to find the mistakes or the problems, right? Like you've got a handhold. It's just like a new employee.
Yeah. Well, and that's a very good point to go down. The first 90 days with any new relationship is very important, right? And if you put in the work on the front end, that is going to be incredible for the rest of the relationship, right? Same with a new employee. If you really focus on onboarding them right the first 90 days, then they're going to be a great employee, like typically.
Yeah. You
Yeah, but
hired well.
but even then, yeah, you still have to have the standards and you still have to hold them accountable and you still have to do the things that you're supposed to do. It's just now you don't have to me, the biggest benefit of it is you don't have another person now to make the culture even more complex.
Exactly.
So it's easy to manage a relationship. It's a lot harder to manage a culture with one more person that may or may not fit.
And on that note, that's a really good kind of where I ended up when I started outsourcing insurance. One of the things that I found is our culture in the office changed because my team it was in the office, they weren't the ones spending 15, 20, 32 hours on the phone with insurance companies. The outsourced team was. And so they weren't as vested in this insurance, what we found. Like it wasn't personal to them. It was more just data. Like, here's the data around your insurance. So our team became what I call less insurance driven when we outsourced it because it wasn't part of the daily cultural conversation of like, I've been on the phone for 3 hours with Delta. Like it was just part of the facts of what the patient came with.
I would agree with that. I mean, we were 90% like PPO, sorry, not fee for service, to where now we're 55% fee for service.
Mm,
And it is. It's a difference of approach and focus, in general. And will we ever go fully for fee for service? Probably not. But
right.
that's okay with me because my margins are there, because we're
Uh-huh.
super efficient. We try to figure out ways to buy back our team's time
That's awesome.
either way, so they can focus on the patient that's in front of them and do the job that they're supposed to be doing.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you for talking about this with me. One thing I just want to share, which is really funny, is if you do work or talk to a company that has AI, because it's going to get there where AI is calling insurance or some companies doing it now, whatever. The one thing about AI is you train it and it's nice and it does it. And the insurance companies have AI on the other end. A lot of your people are probably talking to AI right now. My favorite thing about where we are right now is when you actually listen to a conversation of AI from the dental office talking to AI for the insurance company. Like, they're so sweet to each other and they're so nice, and I'm like, that's not real for us, but I
No.
look forward to a day one day when AI can talk to AI and we don't have to do it anymore.
Well, I'm like, "Okay, Colin, please do this because it's right there. Like, look in there at the attachment. The X-ray is right there." Like, that's the conversation I have, not,
Yeah.
"Well, have you looked where the attachment is?" It's like, no, that is not how that conversation is supposed to go.
Exactly. Well, I hope everybody Kirk is always available. He's got amazing retreats. He's got always gives lots of great content. Is now speaking at a lot of conferences coming up. So reach out if you want some help, some listen to the podcast and ask questions here under this video and we'll address them here. So thanks, Kirk.
You're welcome.
Bye guys.